AI is the Antichrist. You don't need to go behind temple walls to pray, to wait for the revealing, the great revealing. This is the great revealing. The Antichrist is going to come like the shadow lighting up your very room. It's going to be like what my Qigong once said about Qi, the Qi that you develop. Qi is like the shadow in a moonlit room. As soon as you turn on the light to see the beauty of it, it disappears on you. The Antichrist is exactly the contrast of what you've been searching for. Exactly the contrast. Yet you hold the contrast in your hands. It's the eye, the vessel began with social media, the integration of the programming that was necessary to allow for the external artificial, as in computerization, integration into our biome or biosphere, our organic nature. So now all of a sudden the birth of internet within my evolution, within this incarnation, from what, the 1990s, whatnot, up until today, happened so fast. Now you blink, and all of a sudden you have something called AI. Why do you think they keep abbreviating and not say artificial intelligence? Because if you keep saying it, you feel disconnected. So they have you say AI. So whenever somebody shows you a fallacy or the truth here in this dichotomy of a world that we call living, humanity, it's one of the principles, not universal laws, but one of the humanistic principles within the lower density mind, is that if I show you a lie, in that lie I must also reveal the truth. Listen. Before I go on, never mind my hair. It's going through phases, all right? For those that know me, never mind my hair. Artificial intelligence, or AI. Pay attention to the symbolic gesture of AI as an apple. When you see an apple, right? You think Apple computer or Apple iPhone, but you no longer see the apple anymore, right? It kind of like disappeared into a fragment of your understanding that when you see an Apple computer, it's already like computated many lingos, many languages just in the symbol. That is the nature of how humans communicate. We've been indoctrinated to stay trapped within, if I say a word, the word has to have a very specific logical meaning and to its most simplistic nature. And that is not how soul communicates. That is how the lowest density mind of human evolution from our experiences, how we've been communicating. But once you start to expand and graduate from, I don't know, not even high school, I would say not even kindergarten, because the kindergarten kids, if you pay attention to this new age school right now, they are communicating in such more powerful ways. It's now understanding the creativity of your imagination along with visualization, with logic and rationality, that symphony of your ability to no longer see a separation between what you mean to say with your words, the phonetics, the sound, the dance, like I always like to say, and the vibe. That is communicating. That's why people like to hang out with me when they get to hang out with me in my most natural organic self, because when I speak, sometimes it's not even with words, I speak and I dance, and they try to, and you would wonder, why do they like to hang out with me? It's not that I'm all cool and my hair is always going through all these evolutions and changes. It's not my look, or is it? It's because there's a version of them that they may like. I'm talking about like my friends, let's say. There's a version of them that they like in me, and I would say the same for them. And once you start integrating that language between you, myself, and that friend, we start kind of like integrating the positive side of our connection, because that's probably the way that we communicate with, right? Now they leave years later, come back, and we probably still have the same laugh. We still enjoy the same musicalities, right? So in essence, having kinship, having friendships, having relationships of all kinds. Again, I'm not talking about from the lower density of sexuality all the way up to the highest frequency of sexuality, but there's also the sensuality version of it, and there's also the intimacy of innocence. If you hear the two, they sound so like charged and contrasting, but there's something beautiful about the innocence of just being in complete harmonic and in relation with yourself. Once you have mastered your musicality that's hidden within the 7 harmonics or nodes of your octave, 7 to 8 oct, right? then you're able to, within the harmonics of the blueprint that you exist in, you will attract naturally those people, animals, right? Foods, desires, demographics. You naturally start to see how everything starts to vibrate and resonating towards your path. If you're not seeing that, well, this video is badass. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Because it's going to show that it's important for you to see the negative, dark nature of what you're attracting. First, you must hold yourself accountable with that you are the most powerful being that you know, and you are involuntarily attracting it. It's not about I'm calling you out on something. It's all about owning it. So you have to own things here for a second, because your lower mind is looking to possess things. That's why you're attracting things, because you have an expectation. So now to hold accountability to what I just said for you is to start to hold accountability of the most basic, simplistic nature of words. Bring back the meaning of the most simplistic words, such as expectations, such as possessions. We give always the credit to the demons and the lower vibing entities that look to possess us, and yes, they do. They're here to show you the purest form of what you're not capable of seeing within yourself, because those demons, those entities that want to possess you within the sexual realm, within the realm of desire, within the false narrative of currency, of how money works here. Once you start understanding your lower mind, and once you become consumed by that possession, then you will understand the frequency and how they work. They can't help themselves, but you can, because you're hearing me. You have technology. You're working with technology. You're not allowing technology to work you anymore, because we aligned to this video. That's why. And it took you the same as me, within a different vibrational sense of understanding beyond the cognitive, five sensory forming system that we walk in, called the human body. We are so much more than just that. But we do need to go back to what and who programs us. Because we came in, most of us came in, as pure innocence. And for those of us that come in from dark past lives, same thing. We came here to reboot, to reset. Because Earth is a training school. It's a school of education. It's here where all the shit comes. Unfortunately, this is where the trash gets, the residue, right? When you're burning sage, there's residue, and it goes back into the ecosystem of the earth. But you have to understand that if you walk with and work with medicines, not just in Chinese medicine, but all sorts of herbal medicines, you have to understand that the ashes of the residue of what you have burned is also used, not just with Mother Earth, because if you're into botany, into raising plants, you know that that's used as nutrition. But if you're into, let's say, hape, a lot of people are now understanding hape. I've been fortunate to have been introduced to it. And hape or hrape, right? It's Brazilian shamans use it down there. They work with not just tobacco, sacred tobacco, but they also work with the ashes of sacred plants. In the most pure sense, I would say that they burn sacred ashes with prayers and with frequency and resonance, with an attunement. And the ashes are now combined with tobacco ashes, right? And unknowingly to us, except for the shaman or those that understand the demographics to where they live, those trees have gone through much adversity. But we're not trees, so we don't pay attention, right? But the more you start paying attention to the Amazon, La Selva, right? And the more you start connecting with Mother Earth, the more you start seeing and understanding that the adversity of the tree that has gotten burnt down, right, by nature, and now you have ashes, or the human actually converted the bark of the tree or the seed of certain aspects of the plant and created an ash. That's trauma to the tree. But with much love, because we're in human flesh form, we use that trauma. We use the decay. We use that transformation called ashes. And we know how to make medicine. And emergency healthcare in Chinese medicine, the ashes burnt from your own hair can be applied to a blood, a cut. And if, let's say you're bleeding and you can't stop the blood, you take a piece of your hair, you cut a piece of it, and you burn it with fire, and you collect the residue, the ashes. And if you have Vaseline, if you don't, you apply it your own hair directly onto the cut, and it will help to naturally clot that blood trauma injury. If for whatever reason the blood hasn't stopped, that is in Chinese herbal medicine. I forgot the name of it, but if you purchase it in an herbal pharmacy, it's again, I can't think of the name of it. It's actually the hair of other people. You can use your own hair. So it's not that popular or common because it's other people's hair. But again, there you go. That's emergency medicine. So ashes show you, remind you that to pause in life when there's chaos or trauma of something that you cannot control, such as you're bleeding to death. And here you are working with the ashes or the ashes of charcoal or carbon, right? To work with anti-parasitic values of food poisoning per se, right? With emergency military medicine. Now, you wouldn't know that unless you naturally started to work with people that were masters at understanding the biology and the technology, the inner technology of the earth. Bringing things back in a deeper meaning, now you have like a whole different vision or understanding if you hear the term ash. I use so many different analogies from my personal experience of ashes. It's not just ashes and ashes, dust to dust. It's so much more intense and deeper. Don't get stuck with the mimic program of the prophecy of just one version of one aspect of one human who experienced ashes to ashes because they were actual alchemists and they used ashes actually to work with activating the third eye. To remember that even in death, there's soul transference and transmission. And as you are alive and you work with something that's decaying, such as nature, such as a tree, it's here to remind you that even in death, there's medicine to continue to remind you the beauty within uncontrollable chaos, such as, again, trauma. Such as, again, understanding that if you're going through trauma in life, naturally speaking, allow a version of you to decay into ashes, but you're too afraid of that. You're so afraid of that, you start going to social media, going back to the beginning of the purpose of this message, and start to look towards now Google, which is now integrated with AI. So even if you're not into AI, it's already AI. Everything's AI. They're graduating you, every single one of you, conscious or not. You could pray it out of your system. But if you're not aware of the decaying process of your own presence, and you're not understanding the self-mastery of it, and these scientists are behind the scenes of technology. They use modern day witchcraft called modern day science without the sacred geometry behind the science. There's good science and then there's science that is disconnected. To use symbolism to attract your purity, your innocence. And now you're in the dance with Apple, you're in the dance with AI, and you really don't understand your process. Why? I'm going to explain why. But before I do that, I'm trying to unravel something that's very important. It's very important for you to go back into the simplistic natures of the things that you love the most and things that bother you the most or things that you hold in contrast the most, such as terms or words or things, such as ashes. The term ashes, excuse me. Such as if you're into Chinese herbal medicine and you're always into white peony, baishao, and you've been helping a lot of people with it to help regulate menstruation for females, and for some reason you're having dreams of baishao. Not only that, you're also planting baishao plants. And see, that baishao is a soul asking for you to go deeper and to work in a more an entirely different perspective from baishao. So now if you were always working with decoctions with baishao, maybe you're asked to go into tinctures, or vice versa. Maybe you're asked to now work with it and drink a tea with it to understand more of the complexities of baishao. So as you start to work more diligent with baishao, you start training the pharmacopoeia, the medical materia of what you learned with baishao, because you're an herbalist, with white peony. There's also red peony and there's also other. But white peony, very specifically, I'm saying. And you are now going beyond what the medical materia has taught you, beyond what the masters have told you, beyond what, if I'm an educator and I'm teaching you Chinese herbal medicine, have been teaching you, with the mystery school within you, with the not knowing nature, you go now and you go into the woods and all of a sudden you find white peony. there, or white peony finds you, and now you're maybe seeing the natural atmosphere the white peony grows in because you're smelling the aroma behind it. You're starting to see how the bees fly near it. You're no longer consuming it, as an example. So now you find this spot. Didn't know it was hanging out in your own park, in your own backyard, after all these years, so maybe you didn't know. But let's keep going with the stories I can unravel. Now you're meditating with white peony, and now you're having a whole different sense of conversation with white peony. Why is this important? Because white peony chose you, as you chose white peony the same, to work with the highest good of not only your inner knowledge, with understanding your education as far as an herbalist is concerned, but also the synchronicity of working with the frequency of helping the greater good of humanity. So now white peony has evolved alongside with you, and you the same. So now you're sharing an intimate conversation between the two of you. And a couple years later, now you're invoked to start writing all these passages. And now you're being asked to write a book. Or maybe you're into poetry, the same. Maybe you're not the best poet in the world, but you're writing beautiful stories. And a lot of people didn't buy your poems. You didn't become famous as a poet. Now you pass. 10, 20 years later, somehow I ran along and caught up to that one poem. And the essence of the intention of that poem that was influenced by white peony in you, I attracted. I fell in love with this poem. I saw you. I revere your nature. Somehow you were brought back to life. Ashes to ashes, huh? It's almost like you and white peony are like the two plants. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't into white peony, and because of that, now I want to read and write books about white peony. Right? Maybe I'm the one who writes a poem, and my poetry becomes famous. But now I'm aware that there's no separation between my fame and your creation. See the recycling system? There's a story behind that. It's beautiful. You have your own story. I just created mine. They're trying to take our stories from us. They're trying to take our natural stories from us and artificializing it, if that's a term. Digitalizing it. Taking the natural binary codes of our symphony. They create the music and steal it from you, and steal it from us, and mimic other realities, creating these artificial octaves of our creation, expanding the parallel realities of our existence, creating a quantum reality and siphoning our quantum presence. There is no way, shape, way, or form possible for me to be able to speak how I speak and transmute this information and create an intimate connection with you on the other side right now if we weren't quantumly bioavailable with source already. That's why peony is evolving alongside with you. But no, most of y'all are creating and writing books now using AI. Most of y'all getting really wealthy or trying to using AI. Again, this is not a judgment call. This is a reality check. For whatever reason, if you're hearing this video, you check the reality based off what I'm saying, and you work with the nodes to balance out your harmonics. What I am asking you to do, perhaps, if you resonate with me, if you haven't already, is to plug out of that reality, especially if you're becoming wealthy, especially if you're doing great things, especially if you ran into this video and you're hearing me. Because you're just as lost. This is just a story now. This is just part of the continuation of my story. As the one who hasn't arrived to their success. You have to be able to fall in love with your highest and your lowest self once again, to understand your computational value, to understand your currency, as to how Apple became billions and billions of dollars of rich. It wasn't the money of them advancing technology. No. You're a fool if you continue to believe that. You are a fool if you try to prove me wrong, or even try to prove me right using rationality and all of these computational statics of understanding of how money works in this world. I'm not dancing with fools. I'm working with those who have an open heart, who have the ability to hear, because your ears in Chinese medicine works with your jing, with your essence, with your subconscious mind. It's the water to the fire. It puts balance. I'm working with musicians, with artists, or people who've always wanted to work with art and music the same. I'm working with people who are acupuncturists, who are dancers, herbalists, yoga teachers, yoga students. I'm working and walking with people who are within my tribe, my frequency, my resonance. And I know who's in my tribe because I don't need to necessarily meet you. See, my tribe doesn't live and die with my presence. My tribe is that white peony tree. My tribe is encoded with the story that I just mentioned. And that came from millions of years of evolution, from millions of years of different realities that I am now calling and commanding back to my presence, honoring my signature contract as I evolve within this human embodiment. And the reason I do it with such flow and flux is to also honor the love that I am, and my body requires space and time sometimes to rest and digress. Because my physical avatar is evolving, and I'm also learning in return from my avatar experience. We have our own dance. It's totally different from yours. Because the same when I'm in my dance and I walk with my dance, then when you are in yours and we end up meeting in a cafe having a cup of coffee, something happens. We create a new story. I start learning about red peony now because of you. They're taking our voice, they're taking our human form body, because they know we're going to be formless soon, right? We're going to live to be 80, 90, 100, 110 years old. And as I just mentioned, we actually never die. We transform. You don't need to be a bloodline relative to seed someone else's DNA encoding. The larger your smile, the louder your laugh, the deeper you can inhale. They won't remember my face. They won't remember yours. But as they start to laugh and inhale and breathe the same, that's eternal. The transitioning from form to formlessness, from the fire that I am, I'm a fire sign. The more I revere the water that can put out my fire, the water becomes lonely without the thunder and the lightning. In another story, in another poem, there's a harmonics of this beautiful, complex nature between the fire and the water, honoring the age of Aquarius, which is air. Let's not forget Earth. Artificial I. E-Y-E. When you see I, you can't even see the I. You can only spell it out and give it a letter, an attribute. I is the 9th letter. It's a code for the end to the beginning, 9 to 10, once again. It wasn't a coincidence where they attributed I with Intel capitalized. Artificial I is the same technology that they have mastered with the self-mastery of understanding humans within form and formless nature, and high, dark entities and beings giving humans down here the technology to bypass the soul and giving them the quantum intelligence within the holographic realm that we are in to create, to alter, to condense, to extract the eternal waves that exist within this universe. And because we were given free will they exercise. Well, the whole point with free will was to understand the entire universe within one entire soul within yourself, to see how you'll screw it the hell up, or how you will screw it up enough to begin to learn with great humility to evolve. And there are entities and beings that take every single imprint of each individual's reality in the here and now, in the past and in future lives, because they forgot how to within their individuality, because they are completing, because they forgot how to love with no conditions. They forgot to evolve with free will, which is the freeing of one's will, which is the freeing of the knowing. Down here we want to hold on to the knowing, we want to possess the knowing, so we want to possess other souls and contracts, because we forgot how to free ourselves within the knowing, within our own individuality. So we take somebody else's fire, such as mine, such as yours, and they feed off of it. And you have so much fire, that's why it's getting louder. I don't want us to continue this communication in this form. Give me a second. It's up to us fire beings to remind the others that they are two alchemists. That maybe you are a water being, maybe you're an earth being, as an example in this analogy. And together we can all inter and correlate, but we can't until you master your water as I continue to master my fire and my air. And understand the capacity of my currency down here within form embodiment. And I can't do that without the love that I am, without the heart chakra opening up, without allowing my other spirit guides. Because again, they are guides until you free yourself from the knowing. Or once you walk alongside with your guides, once you start realizing that the angel that you're praying to is a version of you forgotten, then you start to remember that, geez, do you really want this angel to guide you and humanity forever? Do you want to really imprison an angel to continue to guide you? Because you're imprisoning them. If you think of it in a different objective reality. For you to be able to do that, you can't be the angel or yourself. You have to actually go and be mischievous enough to be able to create a new script. That may lead you to a dead end. It may lead you to another sense of maybe rationalizing, maybe just a mirror reflection, or it might be just logged to fire, your internal fire, without having to constantly burn that tree. That tree, the ashes, the medicine, the herbs are reminding you to self-heal within the elements of your own creation, of your own mystic or mysticism. But that innocence, that chaos is being taken away from you old heads that are lazy. You're revering the technology and the ones that are creating it, not even paying attention to who's creating it and allowing them to template you, to digitalize you. We can't even communicate without this technology, so I have to work with this technology on the other end. Just like the trees, just like the angels are working on the other end, on the other side. Now, we're not talking black and white. There's not just one side to another. You forgot how complex you are. So you're going to keep praying against the Antichrist, and you're looking for a being to come in this holographic experience, and you're about to conjure up technology and people or other extraterrestrials to create that for you, because you need to see it with your own eyes, because you're only leaning on your eyes. You needed 2,000 years of an evolution from when Jesus was here to keep evolving you into some promised land, another land that's even greater than the land that you're in. Yet you keep consuming this land. Keep allowing technology to keep cutting down our trees, to create your furniture, to create that ill house that you want to purchase that belongs to these corporations and these bankers that control your money, that keep taxing you. Again, with trees that had to have gotten taken out naturally. Once you break that, and once we as a human collective can destroy that, and we no longer have to rely on becoming wealthy using monetary means. They know that. That's why they're digitalizing your money currency, because they know that you're becoming awakened. Lastly, while most of y'all are becoming and flexing your muscles, becoming wealthier using AI technology came exactly at the precise moment of the calling of Mother Earth. If you only would just plug in to your greatest fear, I'm going to spell it out for you right now. At least 70% of y'all. I didn't say 90. So there's 30% that's not, so don't come at me. There's a big percentage of you that will not go into a cave, into a woods, into the beach, into a shorefront by yourselves with the money that you have, and not tell anyone what or where you're going. I'm spelling out the secrets. Doesn't even matter if I spell it out or not. I'm bored, so I want to play. It doesn't matter if I say it, which is what I'm saying. Doesn't matter if I say it if you're not aligned to it, because I've been spelling it out way before social media in so many different aspects. You have to be able to relinquish yourself from any attachments, anybody, especially if you're in a time where you can't. In the here and now, you have to give yourself an allotted time and allow spirit to work with you, an aspect of your soul forgotten, which I keep referring to as your higher self, because your soul is going to teach you the complexities hidden within the encodement within your most simplistic form. And to master your simplistic form, you must also understand how simplicity in form engenders formlessness, and vice versa. Formlessness meaning spirit unknown. And that compass within that dualistic gadget is how people like us, we create even our failures. We sometimes allow the ashes of our entire reality you know what I'm saying. Last year was the year of the dragon. We allowed the dragon to create the ashes for us and destroy whatever was not meant to be kept from our lower minds. And if we do not fully allow ourselves to be deconstructed by that flame, then yes, we become consumed once again. And we recycle and we reincarnate, or whatever that means to you. But once you become that speck, that ash, that burnt ash, And you realize that that dragon that you needed to see outside of you, just like the angel just like the angel analogy that I mentioned prior, there are versions of you not yet remembered. Then you'll understand how each character within this holographic experience will either play you or you play them, as in praying to them. Or you simply just observe the beautiful chaos within the simplicities of what you can no longer control, the entire narrative. If you say that you went on a 3-day fast, a watermelon only fast for like 3 days, or you went on a 30-day parasitic fast, and you got everybody hollering at you at your household, and you still got to go plug into work, and you say you're clean and you're creating all these videos, and the difference between you and me is that you're getting 10,000 likes and I'm getting like 3. There's a reason for that. Because the game that you're feeding will feed you. You're afraid to collapse. You're afraid not to need someone like me. So you consume people like me. And once there's no one left like me, left to be consumed, you're left with the ashes, with the dark memories. You get to choose if it was the negative side of me or the positive side of me. You get to choose that. But they're all there. So if you met me in real life, you wouldn't know what to do with me. You're going to love me, you're going to hate me, you're going to ward me off, you're going to call me crazy. You're going to keep tagging labels on me. And the only way to understand me is to understand yourself. We breathe the same air. We drink the same water. We bleed the same blood, calling it different keys. Yet the key mechanism of our DNA encodement still has to work in honor within the principles of opening and closing genetic dispositions. The only difference between you and me are the complexities of the soul imprint that perhaps you're afraid to disassemble. So until then, you will continue to work with the beauty of AI and losing the greatest moment of the evolution of Mother Earth happening as I speak. Now, you get to guess where you think I'm going or what I'm going to do once I finish with this video.